Lakers as well. In the shadows of greatness, the Lakers win it 106-102. Folks, thanks for watching this Battle of Los Angeles. For Corey Alexander, George Sedano, and many talented people behind the camera you never get a chance to see. I'm Mark Jones. Coming up next, Sports Center with Scott Van Pelt.
Hi there, welcome. This is Sports Center from Washington, D.C. I am Scott Van Pelt. A busy Friday around the NBA. Lakers by 4 knock off the Clippers. They'll play again on Sunday. Kendrick Perkins is going to be here to break down that game and the showdown between the top 2 teams in the East, which was insane. Some big news in the National Football League as well. Matthew Stafford, after being courted by others, going to stay right where he is in L.A. What that can mean for the rest of the teams in need of a quarterback. But first, we will get right back to Los Angeles, where LeBron James joins us. LeBron and Scott Van Pelt, and I think this is history, man. I believe this is the first time you've been on with me where you didn't have a cigar in one hand and the Larry O'Brien in another. So given that it's just a Friday night in February, I appreciate you taking a minute, man. You all right? You got run into there. You're good?
Man, long time, man. Long time, Scott. So it's always good to hear your voice, man. I appreciate you having me on, man. Always a pleasure talking to you.
I appreciate that as well. Everything's cool. You got run into there late. You're all right, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It was a tough back-to-back for us tonight, so we was able to get it done versus a tough Clippers team. Last night we had a tough Minnesota team, but it's good basketball we're playing right now, so we want to hopefully continue it.
All right, so we've all gotten past I'll be damned, Luka plays for the Lakers, and you guys have got some runway now to figure out what you've got. And you've been through this a ton through the years in many different variations with different squads. What's the process, Bron, of now till the playoffs to sort out what you are so that you can be a championship team come June?
Yeah, I mean, at this point in the season, Scott, there's not many days where you're going to have practice. So, it's a dress rehearsal every time we hit the floor, every time we're in film session, shoot-arounds, we hit the road, whatever the case may be. We have to understand that we don't have much time, but when we're on the floor, we have to figure it out on the fly. And I think that's what we've been doing lately. We've been figuring out on the fly, trying to get better and better as Luka continued to get his rhythm back after he came, it's only like, 6, 7 games. I think tonight it was his 10th game with us, possibly. Him coming back from that calf injury that kept him out since Christmas. So, we got to continue to work our habits, and if we do that, we'll be fine.
It dawned on me when I was told perhaps we would talk tonight that 100 years ago it felt like you and I did this commercial, right? And at that time, Bron, I'm about 40, all right? Now, when I got to be 40, that was around the time I thought, I don't know if I can still dunk and not hurt myself, and I couldn't do certain things that I could do as a younger man. That clearly has not happened to you. I'm really sincerely interested in what the process is, Bron, at this stage. Rest and recovery, nutrition, sleep. I'm serious. What has to happen for you to be what you are still?
No, everything. I mean, you just said it, Scott. Everything in the above, man. Nutrition, sleep, making sure I take care of my body, cold tubs, hot tubs, whatever's out there to continue to try to rejuvenate my body and get my body prepared to go out and play every night. I love the game, and I'm in a position where I can continue to play at a high level even at my later stage. So, and I think the chair that you allowed me to steal from you in that first commercial, I think that's helped a lot, too.
I bet it did. Hey, look, I tried to get it.
All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Saturday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great weekend. I'm actually staying up to record this on Friday night. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. I'm going to be breaking down the Clippers-Lakers showdown from last night as the Lakers, after getting dominated by the Clippers for a long time, have actually won 5 out of 7 in that matchup. Another super interesting example of the Lakers dealing with the switching defense. We're going to talk about that. After that, we're going to get into a showdown between the two teams that I believe will eventually face off in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Cleveland Cavaliers survive 2 massive runs from the Boston Celtics to tie the season series at 2, getting a big win on the road in Boston. Then at the tail end of the show, I want to talk a little bit of Denver Nuggets. They've had a uneven stretch of games here recently. They're 2-1, I believe, on the road trip so far. I want to talk about 2 concepts with them. One, the concept of inverted spacing, as I watched Jokic pick apart the Pistons off-ball defenders through just acting as a passing fulcrum at the top of the key. And then I want to talk about the stuff that Denver has to get better at on defense if they want to make a legitimate run to get back into championship contention. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. It's also super helpful if you leave a rating and a review on that front. And then last but not least, keep dropping mailbag questions in the YouTube comments. We'll get to them on Fridays throughout the remainder of the season. All right, let's talk some basketball. So when I looked at the initial matchups to start this Clippers-Lakers game, I saw that Ty Lue put Zubac on Dorian Finney-Smith. And so my first impression there was, oh, we might have a repeat of the Knicks game when they put Karl Anthony Towns on Dorian Finney-Smith and the Lakers just spammed a bunch of pick and pop action to get Dorian Finney-Smith in space. But there was a very smart defensive strategy that Ty Lue implemented in this game. After watching a bunch of film of the Lakers struggling against switching, he just decided to have Zubac switch all those screens. That's why you saw so many of those ISOs out around the top of the key with either LeBron or Luka attacking Zubac in space. And I thought generally did a good job. He pretty much contained dribble penetration for the most part and forced those guys into a lot of jump shots over the top. LeBron was really carrying the load in the early part of the game by just settling into that mid-range jump shot right around like 17, 18 feet out kind of by the top of the key area. But again, like the Lakers did struggle again for the most part. And, you know, I don't think they're going to really generate a ton of offense against switching defenses until Luka gets back to the Luka Doncic that we know he's capable of being, an MVP level shot maker, right? We saw even just a tiny little touch of it at the end of the game when Luka made a couple of big step back threes that led to an adjustment from Ty. We'll get to that in a second. But until Luka really gets back to his MVP level form on the offensive end, and until the Lakers start knocking down their catch and shoot attempts, this is their third straight game where they got less than 1 point per catch and shoot attempt. They've been struggling to shoot the basketball a lot. I do think they'll shoot better in the long run, but until those two things turn around, until Luka gets going, and until they start knocking down their catch and shoot shots, they're going to struggle against defenses that switch, and they struggled for long stretches in this game. But we did see a little Luka run in that fourth quarter. That was a taste of what things should look like in the long run when Luka gets going. So he hits a couple of step back threes over Zubac in switches, one on the left wing, one kind of out on the right side of the floor. Now, at that point, Ty Lue had to make an adjustment. He started putting two on the ball. Once Luka put two on the ball, then they were able to get the defense into rotation and generate quality looks out of that. An open look for Dorian Finney-Smith in the right corner that he knocked down. A dunk for Jackson Hayes on a slip to the rim. They started to get good looks because they got two to the ball. Again, like, we're going to talk about this a lot when we get into the Celtics game as well, but there's like an order of operations in order to break down a switching defense. You have to start getting a matchup you like and attacking it well enough that you score at a rate that is untenable for the defense. Once you start scoring at a rate that's untenable for the defense, then you can start bringing two to the ball. Once you can start bringing two to the ball, then you can start to generate the same type of opportunities that they got in the Denver game, where it's like now we're getting a lot of these 4-on-3s and the ball's popping around. We're getting wide open shots for people. They actually handled the double teams better in this game than they did. I believe it was the Dallas game, if I remember correctly, that they kind of struggled against double teams. But again, like that's a little tiny taste for Lakers fans of what that could look like in the big picture. Luka going on these scoring runs against switches, leading to him getting blitzed, then you have all this opportunity on the backside of that. Now, again, like it got a little tricky in this game because it's not Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves leaves the game with a calf injury. He's going to be getting an MRI on that. Hopefully Austin's okay. We'll find out soon. Rui Hachimura, JJ Redick talked after the game, is dealing with patellar tendonitis or tendinopathy, if I remember correctly. So like something's going on with the front of his knee. He's going to be out for about a week. So take those two guys out of the rotation. You're bringing guys into the rotation that are lesser offensive players. You know, Trey Jemison basically operating as the backup center when that's been a lot of small ball looks anchored by Rui. And then you're getting a lot more Jordan Goodwin because Austin Reeves is out of the lineup, right? Those guys are not as good in terms of offensive threats, although they scrapped tonight. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. So they're going to be a little tricky in these 4-on-3s in the next couple of weeks as LeBron and Luka have to kind of shoulder more of that offensive load, and there's just not as much offensive talent off the ball. But in general, I thought you got to see a little taste of what it could look like in the big picture as Luka starts to get going. That's the beautiful thing about all of this. They've been winning with defense. This is the 6th consecutive game where the Lakers held their opponents to 102 points or fewer. This is now a 21-game span of the Lakers being the best defense in the NBA. That's over a fourth of the season. It's a beautiful thing for the Lakers fans because the thing that I've been most excited about with this team in the big picture is what they're capable of on the offensive end. I imagine a 5-man grouping with LeBron, Luka, and Austin, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Rui Hachimura that could achieve a level of unguardability in a playoff context when Luka gets back to the level that we all know that Luka's capable of reaching, right? LeBron was fantastic again in this game, by the way. He's been doing a great job of just kind of like pulling the weight as Luka's been working his way back into rhythm. It's just wild to me how he's consistently night to night playing at an MVP level. I was in awe of him again tonight. He soundly outplayed Kawhi Leonard, soundly outplayed James Harden, a couple of stars that are a half decade younger than him. Just LeBron continues to just be amazing. I wanted to shout out the Lakers bench in this game, though, because obviously Rui Hachimura was out. Then we find out Austin's out. The Lakers are down 2 starters, so it ended up being just LeBron and Luka and a bunch of discounted role players. But one of the things that I've been preaching about for a while is the value of high motor athletes on an NBA roster, especially on your deep bench. The reason why I'm into this concept is when your main guys are out of the lineup, just playing super fucking hard will go a long way towards keeping your floor up high and giving you a chance to win games. Jordan Goodwin was insane again in this game. One of the best scrappers that I've rooted for in my time as an NBA fan. Jared Vanderbilt was great. Trey Jemison came in and just played his ass off. Dorian Finney-Smith always plays hard. Gabe Vincent always plays hard. I just think that's how you should build a team when you have championship aspirations and you're trying to survive the regular season. Make sure the guys that are outside of your normal rotation are guys who play hard, because that is something you can count on every single night. When you have like offensive players that are not very good, and that's why they're end of the bench guys, they could be terrible on a night when they don't have their jump shot going, or when they don't have a matchup where they're facing switching and they have to create more shots for themselves. Like, you're going to run into a lot more weaknesses in that regard. And here's the thing. Jordan Goodwin struggled to knock down spot-up threes today. Trey Jemison had a couple plays where he, fumbled the ball away in traffic. There are, a lot of Jared Vanderbilt, right? There's going to be moments where you're dealing with those guys and their offensive limitations come to the surface. Jared Vanderbilt still struggles to catch anything in traffic, right? But like, just by competing and playing their ass off, like, I thought one of the biggest plays of the game was when the Clippers took that lead off of, I believe it was off of a Kawhi Leonard 3 at the top of the key on the left side, where I believe Luka goes down and scores, and on the inbound, Jordan Goodwin gets a steal and another layup, and it reversed it back to the Lakers being in the lead. It like completely flipped the momentum, and Luka ended up taking that group into having a small lead going into the fourth quarter. That's a scrappy play that made a huge difference. Jared Vanderbilt scrapping, getting on the floor, taking the ball away from James Harden and drawing a foul. Gabe Vincent, he committed a kicking violation on this play, but applying ball pressure and kicking the ball away from James Harden. And again, if you don't hear the whistle, you just keep playing. And he just beat everybody to the basketball, got that ball, ran it out in transition, and got a layup. Those dudes scrapped all game long, and it gave the Lakers a chance to win, even down 2 of their most important offensive players. And LeBron and Luka just grinded out enough buckets against switches out above the break in order to get enough to win that particular game. I thought the Zubac matchup was interesting. I mean, it's the same type of player as Jokic in terms of like a guy that's just way too big for any Laker to guard, but it's a very different type of matchup, because Jokic was the center of the game plan, and everything they did was built around like helping off of these non-shooters and containing Jokic, right? And like, even with Jamal Murray, they were willing to concede these like mildly contested pull-up jump shots out above the break, right? With Zubac, though, like, he's not the focus of the game plan. The game plan was focused around Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. A lot of similar stuff to what we've seen in other matchups where they were sending all sorts of help at Kawhi Leonard, particularly when he would turn his back so that when he would go to spin off of a guy, he would just run into bodies. They just did a great job of making Kawhi Leonard feel like he was playing in a crowd. They pressed up on James Harden's right shoulder so that they could contest without getting up underneath his landing zone so he wouldn't get to the foul line, although Jackson Hayes did have a really, really bad foul in the fourth quarter where he reached in on James Harden, just stuck his hand right on James Harden's left arm, and that's just James has been just had an automatic trigger to just rise in fire when he sees that for the last 5-7 years of his career to draw additional foul shots, right? So but for the most part, they played Harden's right shoulder. They tried to funnel him into help where Jackson Hayes was always waiting and he was trying to take that floater. I think he ended up going 1 for 10 from 3. They did a good job of closing that gap and keeping things difficult for him, and it worked. They held Kawhi and James Harden to 39 points on 39 shots. They forced him into 8 turnovers. I thought it was another impressive defensive game plan from JJ Redick. But again, you end up giving things to take things away, right? Just like in the Denver game, the Lakers were conceding wide open looks to Aaron Gordon, Russell Westbrook, Christian Brown, right? In this matchup, it was like Zubac was getting some catches. He was getting some catches on the roll, and the Lakers were constantly reacting to Zubac when he'd already have deep post position, as opposed to denying Jokic, fronting the post, forcing him to catch the ball further out so that they could mitigate some of his size. With Zubac, by the time he caught it underneath the basket, most of the time they were just dead to rights already, and Zubac was just able to shoot a little hook shot over the top where he's so deadly. And Zubac is just an awesome player. I think, what do you have, 27 and 16, something like that in that game. The thing that has been really impressive to me with Zubac in particular is his floater touch. When he would catch and there wouldn't be somebody on him and he'd be 7-8 feet from the basket, he'd just turn and shoot like a little floater that would just softly go in the basket every single time. He's just a really good player, and that was where the Lakers decided to have their defense bend without breaking, and they gave up a ton to Zubac. They held everyone else in check, and again, held another opponent to 102 points or less. The Lakers are now 17-4 in their last 21 games. That's the best record in the NBA. They're